to the biological engine of the tropics. Here, the flora is heavily armored. Scattered, drought-resistant canopies employ deep taproots and modified cellular structures to hoard moisture against extreme evaporation. Across the open plains, massive herds of herbivores engage in a continuous harvest. They operate as mobile bioreactors, using multi-chambered stomachs to convert indigestible cellulose into metabolic fuel. This piece is a defensive mechanism. Eyes on the sides of their heads provide a 360-degree visual radar, while massive herd numbers drastically reduce the probability of an individual falling prey. Navigating this exposed ecosystem requires a distinct biomechanical strategy. Baboons utilize specialized quadrupedal locomotion, engineering their musculoskeletal framework to endure prolonged exposure and traverse vast distances across the open plains. Their primary defense is not camouflage, but complex social architecture. The troop operates as a highly coordinated security grid, governed by a strict hierarchy to regulate internal stress and efficiently distribute resources. As opportunistic omnivores, they are built for metabolic efficiency. Equipped with specialized cheek pouches, they rapidly harvest and store calories from grass corms to invertebrates, minimizing their time in vulnerable foraging postures. For the baboon, the troop itself is the ultimate biological fortress against the savannah. The savannah's apex guild operates on strict energetic partitioning. Leopards utilize fast-twitch muscle fibers for solitary, short-range ambushes. Lions leverage collective mass and explosive kinetic bursts to overpower heavy targets. In stark contrast, the spotted hyena engineers a completely different metabolic strategy.
The spotted hyena is an elite cursorial hunter. Contradicting the scavenger myth, their skeletal anatomy, featuring an angled spine and robust forequarters, is mechanically optimized to minimize caloric expenditure over extreme distances. For juvenile baboons, play is strictly physiological. It is an evolutionary rehearsal, hardwiring the motor skills and spatial awareness required for savanna survival. A solitary hyena registers this neural activity. Despite possessing a bone-crushing bite force of 1100 psi, it triggers a rigid risk assessment matrix rather than a blind ambush. The juveniles remain securely within the troop's defensive perimeter. Adult male baboons, armed with canine teeth longer than a leopard's, form a lethal biological barrier. Hunting here demands absolute geometric discipline. The hyena anchors itself at the boundary, conserving calories, waiting for a single spatial error to fracture the troop's integrity. The hyena's neural circuitry temporarily suppresses its predatory drive. Engaging a cohesive primate troop presents a mathematically unviable risk of catastrophic injury. The hyena operates on a strict metabolic budget. By anchoring in the thermal shadows, it conserves core energy while its auditory cortex continuously scans the troop's perimeter for statistical anomalies.
It is a biological weapon, fully primed for the strike, requiring only a single sensory trigger to unleash its kinetic payload. The prey's panic
could instantly trigger a coordinated counterattack from the adults. Patience eventually yields a geometric reward. A juvenile breaches the safety radius, severing its direct line of sight with the alpha sentinels. The biological fortress has fractured. The wait is over. The hyena initiates a complex acoustic protocol. It emits a low-frequency vocalization optimized to bypass atmospheric distortion. This signal traverses the savannah, triangulating its coordinates and summoning the clan's strike force. For the maternal baboon, carrying a juvenile introduces severe parasitic drag. The added mass disrupts her locomotor efficiency, accelerating cardiovascular fatigue.
The maternal baboon's center of gravity is critically shifted, forcing her core musculature into overdrive to maintain balance during high-speed evasion. Simultaneously, physical contact with the infant restricts thermal dissipation, driving the mother's core temperature toward critical limits with every stride. On open ground, the evolutionary mismatch is exposed. The hyena pack operates as an aerobic engine, utilizing their oversized lungs to process massive volumes of oxygen, turning the chase into a calculated war of physiological attrition. The savannah's hardened terrain becomes a hostile variable in this high-speed pursuit. Unpredictable microtopography drastically elevates the probability of a fatal kinematic failure. This is not a chaotic sprint, it is active vector control. The pack deploys a pincer movement, dynamically adjusting their pursuit angles to cut off all spatial trajectories and completely isolate the target. The baboon's fast-twitch muscle fibers cross the critical anaerobic threshold. Lactic acid floods her system, systematically impairing motor neuron functions. Her physical collapse is now dictated purely by cellular chemistry. With ATP reserves critically depleted, the electrochemical signals misfire. Every subsequent stride exponentially loses velocity, finalizing a mechanical deceleration that cannot be reversed. Cornered by the hyena pack, the geometric trap strictly closes around the mother and infant baboon. Cortisol saturates the primate's bloodstream as flight transitions into a futile defensive stand. In the savannah's unforgiving algorithm, this transfer of biomass is now mathematically inevitable. The acoustic distress signals have not dissipated in the void. Driven by the evolutionary imperative of kin selection, the main primate troop converges. This is not altruism. It is the ruthless protection of shared genetic material. Alpha male baboons spearhead the counteroffensive. Armed with razor-sharp canines measuring up to 2 inches, surpassing those of an adult leopard, they deploy a formidable biological arsenal. The baboon troop initiates aggressive mobbing, a coordinated tactical assault designed to overwhelm the hyena's sensory processing. Completely overpowered by the baboon's collective biological arsenal, the hyenas scramble in a desperate sprint, burning their final metabolic reserves to evade fatal lacerations from the alpha male baboons. The baboon's geometric fortress is aggressively re-established, and the transfer of biomass is definitively denied. The baboons must now purge the toxic levels of cortisol from their neural pathways. To achieve this, they engage in allogrooming, a highly evolved social mechanism that triggers the rapid release of oxytocin and endorphins, chemically restoring homeostasis. This tactile interaction transcends hygiene. It is the structural glue of their primate architecture. By reinforcing these interpersonal bonds, they solidify the exact geometric matrix that just saved their lineage. Their true apex weapon is not their canines, but their synchronized neurobiology. For the defeated hyena pack, there is no psychological mourning, only severe physiological consequence. The aborted pursuit has critically depleted their hepatic glycogen stores. Lactic acid pools in their overexerted muscle tissues, and the sudden crash in adrenaline leaves them mechanically sluggish. They must now navigate the hostile terrain with a heavily compromised energy budget. Within this dense, tangled microclimate, smaller species do not merely hide, they integrate. Utilizing rapid thermoregulation and acute seismic sensitivity, they turn the interlocking root systems into an advanced early warning grid. Driven by intense resource competition, species have evolved specialized morphological weaponry, from reinforced armor plating to high-impact kinetic appendages. Every physical clash is a calculated gamble of The victor claims the ultimate ecological prize, exclusive access to caloric reserves and reproductive rights. In this harsh coastal fortress, conflict is the crucible that forces evolution forward. Beyond the relentless salt winds, the dense interior of the coastal scrub forms an impenetrable biological shield. Here, the interlocking canopy creates a stable microclimate, protecting life from the scorching ultraviolet radiation. Survival here is not always a physical clash. It is a masterclass in energy conservation. Daily behavioral rhythms are strictly dictated by the shifting temperature gradients. Deep within the scrub, a sounder of wild boars engages in intensive soil bioturbation. Their highly modified snouts act as powerful biomechanical plows, guided by an olfactory cortex capable of detecting subterranean caloric reserves. Intently focused on foraging, they are completely unaware that their body heat has just exposed their exact location to a hidden predator. A tiger relies on its natural camouflage. Its vertical stripes blend perfectly with the shadows of the palm leaves, making a 200-kilogram predator completely invisible. Wild boars possess an exceptional sense of smell, often surpassing that of dogs. To counter this, the tiger continuously monitors the airflow, moving strictly upwind so its scent is blown in the opposite direction. A tiger's paw is a masterpiece of sound suppression. Thick fat pads absorb the entire weight of its body, while a specialized ligament system keeps the claws fully retracted, ensuring absolute silence. Nature is unpredictable. A sudden micro-shift in the coastal wind alters the airflow. Instantly, the tiger's chemical signature is carried directly into the boar's highly sensitive snouts. The boar's olfactory receptors process the predator's scent in milliseconds. A massive adrenaline dump floods their system. Forced to react, the tiger abandons stealth. Its fast twitch muscles fire simultaneously, releasing the stored elastic energy to launch 200 kilograms forward. The kinetic chase officially begins. The ambush explodes into a high-speed pursuit. Propelled by massive muscle contractions, the 200-kilogram predator accelerates to 60 kilometers per hour in seconds. But this is a biological ticking clock. It must secure the kill before lactic acid paralyzes its legs. But an apex predator is built to bypass chaos. The tiger's visual cortex instantly filters the distractions, locking onto a single, slightly slower individual. The death sentence is signed. Every ounce of kinetic energy is now laser-focused on this one prey. The violent transaction is complete. The rest of the herd survives another day, leaving the weakest behind. For the tiger, this blood-soaked victory provides a massive influx of calories, fueling its reign over the unforgiving coastal scrub. Driven by deep-rooted instincts, the apex predator seeks the sanctuary of the dense scrub. It claims a hidden refuge, a quiet space where the lingering scent of the hunt can safely dissolve into the evening breeze. In the pitch-black canopy, a marvel of evolution illuminates the dark. Under this gentle glow, the sovereign of the scrub quietly watches over the sleeping forest. Stretching along the eastern coast of Africa is Tanzania, a land dominated by the vast, sun-baked plains of the savannah. Beneath the relentless heat, life carries on in a quiet rhythm, creating a fragile illusion of absolute peace. The antelopes are already on the move, gliding effortlessly across the vast plains. Their journey is a picture of quiet grace. With slender frames shaped by nature, every leap is light and rhythmic, moving in perfect harmony with the pulse of the earth. Not far away, a vast procession moves gently across the plains. The wildebeest. The rumble of their hooves sounds like the heartbeat of the earth, an eternal, peaceful cycle. Flowing with relentless grace, these wild waters carve a deep rift across the earth, a line of destiny they cannot refuse. For beneath its mesmerizing flow, a deadly test quietly waits. Right in the river, the apex predator is already in position, a giant crocodile. It doesn't chase, it calculates. Hidden beneath the murky surface, it waits for one fatal mistake. It doesn't chase, it calculates. Hidden beneath the murky surface, it waits for one fatal mistake. Thousands of wildebeest and antelopes crowd the steep, muddy banks, driven by an ancient urge to migrate, yet paralyzed by the raw, violent power of the surging currents. Panic ripples through the ranks. But the raging water is only a distraction. Below the surface, an ancient syndicate has formed, a congregation of giant crocodiles. Cold-blooded and perfectly adapted, they conserve every ounce of energy. Camouflaged against the riverbed, they form a living minefield. The ultimate ambush is set. Tension reaches a breaking point. It only takes one pioneer to shatter the hesitation. Instantly, blind herd mentality takes over. Hundreds launch themselves into the treacherous currents, completely unaware that they are jumping straight into the jaws of death. It is a chaotic frenzy of flailing hooves and panicked cries. Biologically, their hollow hair provides natural buoyancy, a vital adaptation for river crossings. But buoyancy offers no defense against what waits below. The churning rapids mask the silent, deadly approach of the apex predators. For the herd, the only focus is the opposite bank. but every second fighting the current drains their stamina. Blinded by the splashing white water and deafened by the roar of the herd, their keen senses are rendered utterly useless. They are swimming blind, offering the perfect cover for a prehistoric strike. They fight desperately to survive, but in this unforgiving river, their sheer will to live is leading them straight into the jaws of death. And the giant crocodiles do not rush. They are masters of calculating energy. There is no turning back. Propelled by the sheer weight of the endless herd behind them, thousands pour into the river like a living waterfall of flesh and bone. The water becomes instantly choked with bodies in panic. It is a spectacle of mass desperation, and for the waiting prehistoric giants, this is no longer a hunt. It is a feast delivered right to their domain. The giant crocodiles let the river do the heavy lifting. The trap has been sprung. In this brutal theater of nature, not everyone will make it to the other side. Panic erupts. The illusion of safety shatters as the river reveals its true nature. Beneath the surface, the strike is clinical and devastating. Giant crocodiles target the slender legs of their prey. A calculated tactic to instantly disable mobility, dragging them into the suffocating depths. The river turns into a boiling cauldron of predator and prey. With jaws exerting tons of pressure, the crocodiles lock on. The antelopes fight with every ounce of their being, but in this aquatic arena, raw, evolutionary power favors the reptiles. While some fall, the vast majority push forward. With one last surge, they scramble up the banks, escaping the river of death. The onslaught is relentless. The giant crocodiles execute the notorious death roll, a brutal display of biomechanical perfection. The will to live can defy the odds. In the savage theater of the savannah, surviving today is the ultimate victory. The crossing is over for these fortunate few. They have run the gauntlet and cheated death with the heavy physical toll of survival. Safety is a temporary luxury. Here, on solid ground, the herd enters a crucial phase of recovery. Families reunite. Mothers gently nuzzle their calves, verifying their survival through scent and touch. There is no time to look back, no time to mourn the fallen. In the relentless rhythm of the savannah, grief is an anchor the hunted cannot afford to carry. There is a profound resilience in this stillness. For these animals, healing is not a medical process, but a silent act of endurance. They rest not to linger, but to prepare for the miles still ahead. Soon, the chaotic energy is replaced by the peaceful, rhythmic sound of grazing. Eating is more than sustenance. It is a grounding mechanism. Each bite of grass helps rebuild depleted energy reserves and restores the tranquil rhythm of the herd. There is a profound resilience in this stillness. For these animals, healing is not a medical process, but a silent act of endurance. They rest not to linger, but to prepare for the miles still ahead. Instinct commands them to keep moving. To fall behind the herd is to invite the deadly attention of land predators. Their sheer resilience is the true masterpiece of evolution. As the golden hour descends, the African sun casts a warm, forgiving light over this harsh landscape. As the golden hour descends, the African sun casts a warm, forgiving light over this harsh landscape. Today, the river exacted its toll, nourishing the apex reptiles lurking below, but the herd endures. The Great Migration continues, an eternal cycle of sacrifice and survival, marching ever forward into the fading light.
The savannah is unforgiving. Driven by the agony of starvation, a lion pride targets the ultimate vulnerability, a 6-month-old rhinoceros calf. Weighing a mere 200 kilograms and lacking a fully developed keratin horn, the young herbivore is biologically defenseless. The lionesses, capable of reaching speeds of 60 kilometers per hour, execute a flawless flanking maneuver. Lung capacity fade. The calf's anatomy is not built for endurance. Its heavy, bone-dense structure and thick dermal layers act as a thermal trap under the blistering sun, causing its core temperature to spike dangerously. Meanwhile, the felines rely on highly evolved, fast-twitch muscle fibers engineered for explosive acceleration. The gap closes. An agile lioness outmaneuvers the exhausted calf, effectively cutting off its final escape route. Just as all hope seems lost, the earth trembles. A 2-ton living fortress erupts from the dust. The mother. Driven by a primal bond stronger than fear, she violently intercepts the attack, placing her colossal body between the predators and her offspring. The pride knows. To reach the vulnerable young, they must first break this impenetrable wall called maternal love. Defending her calf to the absolute limit, maternal instinct overrides her own survival. Driven to a dead end, a final coordinated surge from the pride pushes the giant over the edge. She plummets into the raging river below, instantly torn away from her calf.
In an instant, the river reclaims the giant. The unseen shadows beneath the surface swiftly extract the very essence of her vitality. What remains of the living fortress silently drifts to the bank, a hollowed monument to a mother's ultimate sacrifice. The orphaned calf has witnessed it all. A profound sorrow anchors it to the shadows, having lost its invincible shield. It faces the vast savannah completely alone, experiencing the wild's most heartbreaking loss. Yet, within this empty world, the primal instinct to endure awakens. Carrying its mother's legacy, the tiny shadow steps forward into the unknown. beginning a new journey of survival. It is the most profound sorrow of the wild, a fragile life inheriting an empty world, forced to walk into the unknown. In the pitch black, the predator easily finds the breath of the vulnerable prey. A hungry hyena catches the scent of the calf. With a highly evolved sense of smell, it tracks the terrified orphan. The African night brings a brutal shift in survival. Without its mother's massive thermal footprint for thermoregulation, the shivering calf faces the biting cold alone. But the true terror is unseen. The orphaned rhino is being hunted by a hyena. Confrontation is a biological impossibility. With only a soft keratin bump on its snout, the calf cannot defend itself. Driven by primal instinct, it retreats deep into a dense thicket. Here, its heavy, gray dermal layer becomes an optical advantage, perfectly absorbing the surrounding pitch blackness to create an impenetrable cloak of shadows. Without visual confirmation to trigger the final strike, the predator loses its lethal focus. Frustrated and blind to its target, the hyena fades back into the night. Protected by the dark, the calf survives its first impossible trial. Time on the savannah is not counted in days, but painted by the changing winds and the eternal rhythm of the rains. The golden seas of dry grass slowly yield to the vibrant bloom of a new season, breathing life back into the hardened earth. Amidst this sweeping canvas of nature, the solitary calf has defied the unforgiving odds of survival, quietly growing alongside the shifting landscape. Early weaning drastically alters its biological development. Deprived of nutrient-dense maternal milk, the young rhino is noticeably lean, forced into relentless foraging to sustain its basal metabolic rate. However, this period of forced maturation brings a crucial structural change. A solid keratin horn has emerged on its snout. The primary weapon of its species is finally taking shape. To fuel its growing mass, the juvenile must consume vast quantities of vegetation daily. Without a mother to act as a visual sentinel, it relies heavily on its auditory and olfactory systems. Its tubular ears swivel like radar dishes, scanning the environment, while an acute sense of smell maps the wind. Yet, the physical act of grazing demands that its head remains down, inherently creating a dangerous blind spot. Concealed within the dense, sun-baked thicket just meters away, a leopard patiently monitors the distracted herbivore. Unlike an aerial drop, a ground ambush requires flawless stealth. The feline's rosette coat seamlessly disrupts its silhouette among the chaotic shadows of the brush. With every silent, calculated footstep, the predator positions itself for a lateral strike against the rhino's softer flank. To close these final few meters, every movement must be absolute perfection. Soft paw pads navigate the brittle leaves without a whisper, while its breathing slows to match the rhythm of the wind. The feline locks its binocular vision on the target, entering a state of calculated stillness. It is a deadly game of patience. The predator waits for a microsecond of vulnerability, the exact moment the calf's auditory radar sweeps the wrong way. With explosive acceleration, the leopard bursts from the thicket, launching a high-speed pursuit. Instantly, the calf's sympathetic nervous system triggers a massive adrenaline surge. For a juvenile herbivore, survival dictates one absolute biological imperative: immediate flight. Firing its fast-twitch muscle fibers, the young rhino accelerates with shocking agility. pivoting away from the lethal strike and initiating a desperate race for survival. The leopard attacks the young rhino from the flank. For a juvenile herbivore, the default biological response is immediate flight, but the trauma of prolonged isolation has altered this orphan's behavioral conditioning. A massive surge of adrenaline triggers the sympathetic nervous system, instantly overriding fear with aggression. Fight overrides flight. The young rhino drops its weight, pivoting with explosive force. It drives its hardened horn directly into the leopard's chest. The feline's light frame cannot absorb the brutal impact. Thrown backward, the predator flees. The young rhino stands its ground, a profound evolutionary leap. Years of ecological cycles have forged a titan. The once vulnerable calf is now a 2-ton mega-herbivore at the peak of its physiological prime. Encased in a dermal armor up to 5 centimeters thick, it wears a formidable biological shield. At the apex of its snout, a magnificent keratin horn sweeps upward. It is no longer a target, it is a master of its domain. But time in the savannah is a ruthless equalizer. The apex predator of the past, the male lion, has entered deep senescence. His heavily scarred visage and diminishing muscle mass tell a story of lost territory and fading strength. In the brutal mathematics of survival, severe caloric deficit clouds predatory judgment. Desperation forces a fatal miscalculation, challenging a fully grown rhinoceros. Driven by blinding starvation, the aging lion launches a desperate strike, but this is no longer the trembling orphan of the past. The trauma of its solitary youth has forged an unyielding titan. As claws scrape against impenetrable dermal armor, the biological urge to flee is completely erased, replacing fear with a roaring infrasonic fury. The rhino aggressively pivots its 2-ton mass. Lowering its massive head, the rhino channels years of brutal survival into a single, devastating kinetic strike. The magnificent keratin horn sweeps upward in a violent eruption of pure power. The compromised skeleton of the desperate king cannot absorb the sheer force of evolution. Shattered and completely overpowered, the lion abandons the hunt, fleeing into the dust. Under the fading sun, the once vulnerable orphan stands immovable, its majestic horn catching the golden twilight. Behind the new titan, the aging king limps into the shadows, a fading era surrendering to the relentless resilience of life. Ancient granite peninsulas cut deep into the South Atlantic, where powerful oceanic winds constantly sweep over the rugged coastal cliffs, keeping the ambient air temperate and crisp. The Cape of Good Hope, South Africa. Driven by intense trade winds, the freezing Benguela current surges upward from the abyssal depths, generating a massive coastal upwelling zone. This deep water engine pumps nutrient-dense nitrates directly to the sunlit surface, feeding a vast marine food web while keeping the coastal air crisp, wild, and perpetually temperate. Nestled along this breezy coastline is Spheniscus demersus, the African penguin, the only penguin species endemic to the continent. Even in cool ocean winds, intense physical exertion can cause overheating. Above their eyes, pink featherless glands act as vascular radiators, flushing warm blood to the surface to be rapidly cooled by the sea breeze. Unlike their Antarctic relatives built for sub-zero blizzards, Spheniscus demersus has adapted to temperate coastal life. Highly social and strictly monogamous, they form dense colonies where intense family bonds are forged. Amidst this crowded community, maternal devotion is the ultimate anchor where every call, defense, and sacrifice is driven by the instinct to keep their offspring alive. High energy demands force the mother toward the sea. Unsuited for land, her short legs burn triple the energy of a normal predator just to walk. Every step is a heavy physical sacrifice. Reaching the ledge, she pauses to calculate the waves and scan for predators, carefully weighing the deadly risk before making her move for her chick. Beneath the surface waves, in the dim blue depths of the pelagic zone, a female great white shark Carcharodon carcharias rests after an exhausting gestation. Unlike most fish, she gives birth to live young, completing an 11-month internal development cycle in total seclusion. A litter of neonates, under 1 meter long, emerges with fully mineralized jaws and functional dermal denticles. Without postnatal milk, maternal investment is paid in blood and energy, the mother relentless in her hunts to fuel embryonic growth, choosing deep seclusion to deliver her litter away from predators. Suddenly, an anomalous rogue wave driven by deep ocean swells colliding against coastal shelves crashes violently over the rocks, sweeping the penguins into a chaotic vortex of churning white water. Beneath the surface, the aquatic chaos triggers a sensory explosion. The mother shark's ampullae of Lorenzini detect the low-frequency electrical impulses and kinetic turbulence, transforming distant splashes into an unmistakable directional beacon. Driven by severe postpartum metabolic deficit, her exhaustion vanishes. Leaving her vulnerable neonates safely in the quiet shallows, she abandons maternal seclusion and initiates a high-speed vertical ascent, utilizing powerful caudal oscillations to bridge the water column. Rocketing upward at peak velocity, she breaches the surface trajectory. With jaws agape, lined with replaceable serrated teeth, she executes a calculated ambush from below, transforming the penguin's fatal fall into a lethal intersection of two evolutionary worlds. Utilizing rigid, flattened wings as hydrofoils and webbed feet as rudders, the surviving penguins burst through the surface turbulence, escaping the ambush zone through explosive burst acceleration and erratic evasion paths. Returning ashore with crops laden with schooling pelagic fish, the mother initiates an immediate physiological transition, regurgitating predigested, nutrient-rich lipids to fuel her chick's rapid metabolic growth, successfully completing a high-risk evolutionary cycle of endurance, sacrifice, and generational survival. The mother transfers nutrient-rich fish directly to her chick, delivering the essential caloric intake required for its rapid cellular and physical development. As dusk descends over the coastal granite, the fading sun paints the horizon and temperatures drop sharply. This triggers behavioral thermoregulation as the colony settles into the long night, marking the completion of another demanding cycle where every hunt, escape, and maternal sacrifice ensures that life on the edge endures. The Amazon basin at dawn. The visible mist is a byproduct of immense biological transpiration. This single watershed contains 20% of Earth's flowing freshwater. It functions as a global nutrient artery, but as the first light breaks, it activates as a highly efficient hunting ground. Here, morning is not an awakening. It is the ignition of a highly competitive killing floor. Above the surface, Panthera onca, the jaguar. Positioned on an overhanging branch, it utilizes elevation to penetrate the water's optical refraction. Its rosettes are not merely decorative. They serve as disruptive coloration, breaking its physical outline against the dappled canopy light. The amber eyes are absolute. Behind the retina, a reflective layer, the tapetum lucidum, amplifies available photons, effectively stripping the glare from the river's surface to track submerged biological signatures. Every muscle fiber coils under immense tension, converting biological anticipation into pure kinetic potential. The lethal equation is now complete, waiting only for the perfect fraction of a second to trigger the strike. The descent. Unlike cheetahs or lions optimized for sustained terrestrial sprints, the jaguar's morphology is built for ambush and blunt force. Its unusually short, heavily muscled forelimbs act as coiled springs, generating explosive biomechanical torque. The moment it fractures the surface tension, it must instantly overpower the immense drag of the water to secure the target. As a hypercarnivore, its execution protocol is unique among big cats. It does not rely on exhaustion or tracheal asphyxiation. Powered by an unparalleled bite force of roughly 1,500 pounds per square inches, it bypasses the throat entirely, piercing the temporal bones or severing the cervical spine. It is an instantaneous neurological shutdown. The harvest. Specialized carnassial teeth act as biological shears, effortlessly slicing through dense muscle and crushing bone to extract the nutrient-rich marrow. This raw, visceral harvest instantly repays the massive metabolic debt of the amphibious strike, fueling the Amazon's ultimate predator. For a 100-kilogram predator, a small prey only satisfies immediate caloric maintenance. The jaguar's high basal metabolic rate, driven by a dense muscular structure, demands a constant energy surplus to prepare for the inevitable lean periods of the flooded season. Still operating at a caloric deficit, the jaguar resumes its search for food. The jaguar downregulates its breathing to minimize acoustic signature, sliding into the undergrowth. Jaguar movement is a masterclass in biomechanical efficiency, using a low-slung, prowling gait that distributes body weight evenly across all four limbs to prevent ground vibration. The predator freezes, locking all its senses onto the target. It has found a high-energy prey. This is a meal large enough to sustain the jaguar for days, making it entirely worth the physical risk of a second hunt. The jaguar's ideal meal is a family of giant river otters just downstream. Completely oblivious to the predator's gaze, they are executing a hunt of their own. Highly sociable and intensely vocal, these aquatic wolves use sensitive whiskers to detect microscopic pressure waves in the murky water. Completely oblivious to the danger, the pack is engaging in complex social reinforcement. Their playful wrestling and communal grooming are not merely leisure, they are vital survival mechanisms. Lacking a thick layer of blubber, they must constantly rub natural oils into their dense fur to maintain absolute waterproofing for thermoregulation. Their constant, energetic vocalizations synchronize the pack, ensuring a unified biological machine. This intense social bonding is the foundation of their teamwork. As they smoothly transition from play to a coordinated patrol in the shallows, their sensitive whiskers detect microscopic pressure waves emanating from a tangle of submerged roots. A massive constrictor, lying in wait to ambush passing prey, has been exposed by their biological radar. The hidden hunter is now cornered. While the jaguar patiently waits in the shadows, a deadly confrontation unfolds below. Stripped of its element of surprise, the giant snake is forced to defend itself. The battle enters its critical phase. A constrictor's defense and counterattack rely entirely on its ability to coil. A clash of metabolisms begins. The warm-blooded otters possess immense cardiovascular stamina. The cold-blooded reptile, however, relies on short bursts of energy, quickly exhausting its muscles. Instead of risking a fatal bite, the otters use coordinated mobbing, darting in and out, systematically draining the snake's energy until its muscular defense completely collapses. The otters intuitively understand this geometry. While subordinate members relentlessly bite the tail to keep the heavy reptile stretched out and off balance, the alpha focuses on the lethal end. The snake's anaerobic reserves are depleted. Its strikes are losing velocity. The decisive moment, exploiting a fraction of a second, the alpha otter delivers a precise, incapacitating bite to the back of the snake's head. Equipped with incredibly robust dentition, it swiftly neutralizes the reptile's central motor functions. The threat of constriction is permanently disabled. The predator has officially become the prize. Emerging from the dense understory, the jaguar isolates its target, the vulnerable pups in the shallows. It lowers its center of gravity, entering a state of absolute stealth. Every footfall is precisely calculated, its padded paws absorbing all acoustic vibration. It relies on the element of total surprise to snatch a quick, high-calorie meal. But the Amazon is a landscape of hypervigilance. 6 adult otters instantly detect the anomaly on the bank. In unison, they execute a behavior known as periscoping, elevating their upper bodies to maximize binocular vision and precisely map the threat. They do not scatter. Instead of fleeing, they form a solid defensive phalanx. This is active mobbing. Bearing prominent canines, they unleash a synchronized defensive assault. By violently slapping their muscular, flattened tails against the surface, they create explosive columns of water. This is a brilliant biological tactic. It visually disorients the predator, creates an intimidating acoustic wall, and confidently broadcasts their physical fitness. Incredibly, they swim towards the apex predator, pressing the boundary. The jaguar is forced into a complex cost-benefit analysis. A confrontation with 6 coordinated, heavily armed otters carries a high probability of injury. For a solitary apex predator, even a minor wound can hinder future hunts and lead to starvation. The mathematics of survival dictate its next move. With a low growl of calculated frustration, it dissolves back into the shadows. The Amazonian standoff ends in a psychological victory for the river pack. As the sun dips below the canopy, casting long amber shadows across the basin, the otter family returns to the bank. Their biological priority shifts seamlessly from defense to thermal management. They engage in intensive communal grooming, systematically working natural lipids back into their dense underfur. This action traps a microscopic layer of air, providing crucial biological insulation against the rapid temperature drop of the impending night. This sustained physical contact serves a profound dual purpose. Beyond physical maintenance, the tactile stimulation triggers the neurological release of oxytocin, chemically reinforcing the intricate social architecture of the pack. The vulnerable pups, having survived another revolution of the sun, closely observe the adults. In this highly evolved society, survival is not strictly instinctual, it is learned behavior. Generational knowledge is constantly passed down through shared trauma and shared triumph. As daylight surrenders to the equatorial night, the giant river otters finally rest. Today, their collective intelligence allowed them to survive the razor-thin margin between predator and prey. Tomorrow, the sun returns, and the relentless machine of the rainforest will reset. The African savannah, at the height of the dry season. It is not a barren wasteland, but a masterclass in ecological patience. Out here, energy is the ultimate currency. To endure the solar radiation, the grass eaters enter a waking meditation, actively down-regulating their metabolism. Lowering their metabolic rate, the hunted shift posture to deflect heat while their senses map the wind, a silent biological triumph. Lionesses initiate a calculated metabolic shutdown to regenerate fast-twitch muscle fibers, preserving maximum kinetic potential for the upcoming fierce hunts. This process demands 20 hours of deep rest to fuel their explosive anaerobic sprints. In the open plains, the female ostrich establishes a secure perimeter. She excavates the sun-baked surface to expose the cooler soil beneath. This is a strategically engineered microclimate, designed to buffer her nest against the savanna's extreme thermal shock. Anchored within this depression, she lays her eggs. Her massive body now serves as a biological heat shield, strictly regulating the temperature parameters required for embryo survival. Each egg is an evolutionary marvel. The dense calcium carbonate shell is structured with microscopic pores, facilitating embryonic respiration while sealing against the arid atmospheric pressure. Shattering the calcium shell, the chicks emerge precocial, biologically equipped to walk the savanna within minutes. The ostrich chicks face their first physical challenge, learning to walk. Every clumsy stumble builds vital muscle memory, conditioning their legs for the constant locomotion required to survive the savanna. Parallel to this, an apex weapon reactivates. Once basic equilibrium is established, the chicks shift their focus to sensory processing. Their expanding visual field begins mapping the terrain, analyzing spatial dimensions and ground textures. Once basic equilibrium is established, the chicks shift their focus to sensory processing. Their expanding visual field begins mapping the terrain, analyzing spatial dimensions and ground textures. The mother functions as a mobile biological shield. Through low-frequency acoustic signals, she constantly calibrates her offspring's spatial awareness against surrounding threats. Transitioning to ambush mode, the lioness employs pure acoustic stealth. Shock-absorbing paw pads mute her approach, while her pigmentation perfectly dissolves into the optical spectrum of the dry grass. Stalking relies on geometric precision. The lioness systematically exploits topographical blind spots to close the distance without triggering the prey's visual radar. The physiological equation reaches critical mass. The lioness must breach the 30-meter strike radius before the mother's threat detection network registers the anomaly. The stealth perimeter collapses. The lioness detonates her fast-twitch muscle reserves, unleashing an explosive burst of anaerobic power to reach maximum velocity in mere seconds. The chick's newly mapped neural pathways instantly switch to survival mode. It executes erratic, sharp-angle evasions, forcing the much heavier predator to constantly recalculate her intercept trajectory and bleed vital momentum. This chase is a lethal biological countdown. Built for explosive sprints, the lioness rapidly overheats. She must strike within seconds, or thermal exhaustion will completely shut down her muscles. Triggered by acute acoustic distress signals, the mother intercepts. Reaching bipedal speeds of 70 kilometers per hour, she weaponizes her massive kinetic energy, instantly severing the predator's strike trajectory. The ostrich flock surges forward at high velocity, weaponizing their collective kinetic energy to violently swarm the outmatched lioness. The predator-prey dynamic violently inverts. An adult ostrich delivers a forward kick with devastating biomechanical efficiency, packing enough blunt force trauma and shearing power from its claws to permanently cripple a large feline. The predatory threat neutralized. The flock's elevated adrenaline levels rapidly baseline. The mother immediately reconnects with her chicks, employing tactile stimulation to assess their physical integrity and stabilize their physiological stress. As the solar gradient drops, the savannah transitions into its nocturnal thermal regime. The chicks have successfully executed their primary biological directive for the day, surviving the apex crucible of the open plains. For months, this fractured Earth has endured a state of suspended animation. This is not merely a change in weather, but as barometric pressure plummets, a volatile chemical signal rides the incoming winds. It is a violent continent-wide biological awakening. Down below, the larger herbivores anchor themselves against the blinding dust squalls. They do not flee. High in the canopy, intricate avian architecture faces its ultimate mechanical stress test. Then, the atmospheric dam breaks. Millions of gallons of water crash against the parched soil, instantly supercooling the savannah and washing away months of desperate endurance. Amidst the deluge, a quiet biological marvel unfolds. Transforming her feathers into a living, hydrophobic canopy, she does not merely block the rain. She radiates life-saving endothermic heat, turning her own fragile body into an absolute sanctuary. As the storm's initial fury softens into a steady, life-giving rhythm, the savannah's smallest residents emerge from their sanctuaries. The deluge is no longer a threat. It is an evolutionary spa. Embracing the sudden moisture, they engage in a meticulous, instinctual ritual. As the storm clouds fracture, the saturated earth responds with an explosive biological bloom. The savannah is instantly flush with invertebrate life. Driven by the insatiable metabolic demands of their growing chicks, the parents are locked in an exhausting cycle of aerial foraging. Every delivery of high-yield protein is a delicate calculation of energy spent versus energy gained. A cold-blooded opportunist decodes the chemical trails left by the parents' frantic departures. Exploiting this brief, unguarded window, the predator closes in. Nature's newfound abundance is about to be violently redistributed. Closing the final inches, the serpent coils its kinetic frame for a lethal strike. But the predatory sequence is violently shattered. Fueled by maternal hyperaggression, she weaponizes her own body, forcing the cold-blooded opportunist into a sudden retreat. The immediate threat dissolves into the canopy. Through sheer maternal force, the biological investment is secured, and the fragile genetic lineage survives the daylight. To the untrained eye, arresting pride appears indolent, but this profound lethargy is a masterpiece of energy conservation. Engineered as a hyper-carnivore, its frame is built for brief, catastrophic explosions of kinetic force. Here, every calorie saved is a weapon stored. They are the only felines on Earth to have weaponized social architecture. When these apex tacticians finally rise, they do not merely hunt, they execute a devastating biological algorithm. Yet, the lion's absolute dominion ends abruptly at the water's edge. Here, the savannah's feline algorithm meets its ultimate evolutionary match. An ancient relic of the archosaurs, the Nile crocodile does not rely on speed. It operates on hydrostatic stealth, utilizing dermal pressure receptors to detect the microscopic ripples of a thirsty pride. Suspended in absolute buoyancy, this armored leviathan trades social tactics for sheer biomechanical violence, a crushing force of 5,000 pounds per square inch, designed not to slice, but to drown. When mammalian heat meets reptilian patience, the hierarchy of the wild is suspended. In this transitional zone, the crown is always contested. As the dry season tightens its grip, the savannah's fluid lifelines evaporate into isolated, muddy depressions. For the feline apex, the biological mandate for hydration begins to override their inherent caution. To drink is to surrender the sensory high ground. Lowering their heads, their peripheral vision is severely compromised. They have stepped into an ecological choke point, the absolute domain of the ambush sovereign. Submerged in the turbid depths, a prehistoric titan recalibrates its buoyancy. It does not hunt by sight in these murky waters. Guided by a network of dome pressure receptors, it reads the exact coordinates of the pride, locking onto the rhythmic, microscopic vibrations of their lapping tongues. Survival here is a microsecond calculation of reflexes, feline fast-twitch fibers firing against the archaic snap of reptilian jaws. In a fraction of a second, static tension detonates into aquatic violence. A ton of armored muscle defies gravity, launching a kinetic strike engineered to drag mammalian heat into the crushing dark. The ambush dissolves, but the message is brutally clear. At the water's edge, survival is nothing more than a negotiated truce. For the absolute monarchs of the savannah, the toll for a single drop of water is the constant, looming shadow of death. The violent kinetic exchange ceases. As adrenaline metabolizes, both predators retreat to their respective domains, trapped in a biological stalemate dictated by the limits of energy expenditure. The waterhole slowly reclaims its deceptive tranquility. In the broader ecological calculus, this clash was never a war of malice. It was simply a brutal negotiation of boundaries, where water is the ultimate currency. As the equatorial sun bakes the memory of this encounter into the fractured earth, the savannah prepares for the nocturnal shift. The felines will heal, the leviathan will wait. For in this ancient theater of survival, there are no permanent victors. There is only the eternal, unforgiving rhythm of life, demanding resilience from every beating heart. Sikhote Alin, the Russian Far East. Here, the northern taiga collides with subarctic frost. Temperatures plummet to -40 degrees Celsius. The African semi-desert, an ecosystem defined by extreme thermal amplitude. Surface temperatures can fluctuate by 40 degrees Celsius within a single diurnal cycle. The female ostrich has entered the pre-oviposition phase. As an obligate ground-nesting species, she must survey the terrain to locate a precise geographic depression, a communal scrape. The environmental selection criteria are mathematically strict. Optimal soil substrate for egg heat retention at night, and an unobstructed 360-degree field of vision. In a landscape patrolled by apex predators, a topographical miscalculation equals the eradication of a genetic generation. The scrape chosen by the female ostrich is optimal, but contested. A reptilian interloper, the African monitor lizard. The female ostrich initiates a threat display, expanding her wings to maximize visual volume. A biomechanical stalemate with the monitor lizard forces the female ostrich to concede the micro-territory. Driven by the physiological urgency of imminent oviposition, she recalculates her spatial map. The search perimeter must be expanded beyond the reptile's foraging radius. She requires a specific ecological matrix, coarse sand for drainage, sparse flora for early predator detection, and optimal solar exposure to passively incubate the clutch during diurnal foraging. Time is the ultimate limiting factor. Driven by relentless solar radiation and a severe deficit of atmospheric moisture, the African semi-desert operates as a thermodynamic furnace where only highly specialized biology can maintain physiological homeostasis. Bipedal locomotion allows the female ostrich to cover vast distances with minimal caloric expenditure. Her elastic tendons store and release kinetic energy with each stride, functioning as biological springs. The female ostrich instinctively avoids dense vegetation. Ambush predators, such as the African lion or leopard, rely on structural cover to close the critical kill distance. An open radius provides an essential optical early warning system. A potential site is identified, a natural depression characterized by coarse, well-draining quartz sand. This specific mineral composition absorbs solar radiation during the day, acting as a thermal battery for the clutch when nocturnal temperatures plummet. Sensory receptors in her metatarsals evaluate the substrate's density. By utilizing a bilateral sweeping motion, she modifies the microtopography. The resulting geometry is mathematically calculated to prevent a heavily calcified egg from rolling out of the central incubation zone. The architectural blueprint is complete. Her neurochemistry shifts, lowering cortisol levels as perceived environmental threats diminish. In this unforgiving, sun-scorched theater, the female ostrich has secured the ultimate stronghold for oviposition. Oviposition is complete. The female ostrich now guards a communal clutch. Each highly calcified egg weighs approximately 1.5 kilograms, representing a massive biological investment. Diurnal incubation is her exclusive responsibility. Her cryptic, earth-toned plumage acts as a thermal shield, actively intercepting solar radiation to prevent the embryos from exceeding their critical thermal limit of 39 degrees Celsius. After 42 days of thermodynamic incubation, a critical biological sequence initiates. The neonate utilizes a temporary egg tooth to fracture a 2 millimeter thick calcium carbonate fortress from within. Despite rapid growth, juvenile mortality approaches 90%. When terrestrial predators are detected, the chicks deploy a passive defense, collapsing to mimic arid scrubland, aided by their spiny, disruptive down. The female ostrich assumes dual roles as a biological shield and an early warning radar. By extending her wings, she creates a critical microclimate of shade, while her 2-inch ocular globes continuously compute visual threat data across the relentless semi-desert geometry. At 3 weeks post-hatching, the metabolic demands of the chicks skyrocket. They exhibit a staggering growth rate of 1 centimeter per day, driven by constant foraging. Equipped with the largest eyes of any terrestrial vertebrate, the female ostrich detects a subtle anomaly disrupting the thermal waves of the underbrush. An African monitor lizard. It navigates using advanced chemosensory data, continuously flicking a bifurcated tongue to extract the chick's olfactory signature via the Jacobson's organ. Its sprawling, low-slung posture nullifies seismic vibrations. An ectothermic stalking protocol. It evades visual detection, calculating precise kinetic variables before the strike. As solar radiation ceases, the semi-desert's rapid radiational cooling triggers a thermodynamic crisis for the neonates, transforming into an insulating canopy to counteract lethal hypothermia. The female transfers core heat, while her auditory cortex remains hypervigilant for nocturnal predators. The monitor lizard computes the metabolic cost of a physical confrontation against a hypervigilant adult. The reptile aborts the ambush, prioritizing energy conservation over caloric gain. But the visual and olfactory signatures of the chicks have attracted mammalian predators, African wild dogs. They operate on complex pack dynamics, utilizing coordinated endurance running to exploit vulnerabilities in defensive perimeters, while an African wildcat opportunistically utilizes peripheral camouflage to stalk the brood amid this sensory distraction. The female ostrich counters with lethal biomechanics. Her forward bipedal strikes act as kinetic battering rams, capable of shattering a canine's ribcage. Calculating the high mortality risk, the pack scatters. Maximizing her wingspan, the female simulates an overwhelming biological footprint. Confronted by this physical disparity, the feline retreats, securing the genetic lineage for another day. A sudden aerial threat intercepts. A martial eagle. Circling in the high-altitude thermals, a martial eagle computes a lethal aerodynamic trajectory. Plotting its strike, the apex raptor prepares to utilize gravitational acceleration in a high-velocity dive targeting the matriarch's vital cranial receptors. The monitor lizard returns, exploiting the previous mammalian distraction. Its ectothermic metabolism affords immense biological patience, waiting for a critical lapse in maternal vigilance. The female instantly counters. She deploys a series of precision bipedal strikes. The sheer kinetic impact overpowers the reptile's osteoderm armor, forcing a definitive retreat. To neutralize the final aerial adversary, the mother ostrich leverages her sheer biological mass. Rearing up to intercept the eagle, she deploys her dynamic wingspan to shatter its aerodynamic trajectory, defeating the ultimate threat through vertical superiority. The multi-tiered predatory assault fails. Sympathetic nervous systems downregulate. In this relentless kinetic furnace, the matriarch has engineered a rare, transient state of ecological equilibrium for her brood. Yet, this sanctuary is fleeting. Driven by unrelenting metabolic demands, the family must immediately resume their nomadic traverse across the unforgiving biome. In the unforgiving calculus of the African savannah, survival is never absolute. It is a continuous evolutionary tax. Until these precocial chicks reach full maturity, the matriarch remains their ultimate biological shield, marching forward into the endless war of attrition that defines this semi-desert biome. The Philippine forest at 40 degrees Celsius. In this extreme heat, the ecosystem optimizes to survive. Mammals and reptiles restrict their movements to conserve water and energy. Down here, staying completely still is the most basic survival tactic. For the prey, survival is based on cryptic behavior. Small mammals and reptiles rely on camouflage to blend completely into the background. By remaining motionless, they reduce their thermal signatures and avoid visual detection. They retreat into the narrowest spaces of the understory, a tactic that forces any large predator to hunt in a highly restricted environment. Within this vast but dense labyrinth, survival requires advanced cognitive processing. For highly intelligent mammals, the primary strategy is constantly calculating environmental risks. Their ecological rivals are often opportunistic reptiles, specialized in climbing to ambush and steal. Between them, it is a continuous game of situational awareness. Lacking overwhelming physical strength, the smaller mammals must rely entirely on their intellect to outmaneuver these localized threats. But every survival tactic below is overridden from above. The Philippine eagle, weighing up to 8 kilograms, flying through this dense timber should be physically impossible, but it has evolved unusually broad and rounded wings. This specific aerodynamic structure generates massive lift at very low speeds. It allows the eagle to brake instantly, execute tight turns around tree trunks, and navigate the labyrinth without crashing. Its primary weapon is a 7-centimeter rear talon. The leg muscles are engineered to deliver the exact pressure needed to snap a primate's neck instantly. To guide this sheer biomechanical power, its vision processes spatial details 8 times better than a human, easily detecting intelligent prey hiding in the shadows. The apex predator of the canopy is preparing to hunt. It is a flawless executioner, programmed to strike whatever is forced out into the open. Elevated within the complex strata of the mid-canopy, this arboreal zone is controlled by a highly complex mammalian society, the long-tailed macaque. Their survival in this tangled network of branches relies on advanced neurobiology. Their brains process stereoscopic color vision, an evolutionary trait that allows them to instantly calculate distance, depth, and the structural integrity of every branch before making a jump. Living in troops of up to 30 individuals, they operate on a strict matrilineal hierarchy. In this extreme heat, minimizing physical exertion is critical. They maintain social stability and reduce internal conflict through allogrooming. This specific tactile stimulation triggers endorphin release, effectively lowering the troop's overall heart rate and conserving vital metabolic energy. Their intelligence extends beyond social bonds into advanced ecological mapping. The older females serve as living archives of the forest, memorizing the complex fruiting cycles of hundreds of plant species. This collective spatial memory allows the troop to navigate directly to high-calorie food sources, completely eliminating the caloric waste of random foraging. This ecological intelligence is bound by an unbreakable social cohesion. To protect the troop, sentinels take the most exposed vantage points to operate a categorized acoustic network. Issuing an alarm is an act of biological altruism. The caller deliberately exposes its own position to save the community. Using distinct vocal frequencies, they instantly inform the troop whether to brace for an aerial strike from an eagle or a ground ambush from a reptile. Here, they do not survive as individuals, but as a synchronized superorganism. While the troop enters a state of metabolic rest, sentinels actively scan the perimeter for aerial predators. But even the most sophisticated visual network has a blind spot. Fixated on the open space above, they remain completely oblivious to the shadowy microhabitat directly below. Perfectly camouflaged, the Asian water monitor operates as an apex ambush specialist. Remaining completely motionless, it constantly samples the air with a bifurcated tongue, transferring chemical molecules to its Jacobson's organ, patiently waiting for a mammalian scent signature to enter its strike zone. The equilibrium is broken by a juvenile macaque. Lacking the spatial experience of the adults, it strays from the main group. Driven by curiosity, it descends beyond the established safety threshold. Without realizing it, the young primate has just crossed into the reptile's calculated strike radius. The monitor launches its pursuit, forcing the juvenile to flee into the water. Here, primate biomechanics are severely disadvantaged. The ectothermic reptile uses its highly muscular tail to generate massive aquatic propulsion. It does not rely on stamina, but on a rapid anaerobic burst of kinetic energy to close the distance. High above, the Philippine eagle processes this sudden burst of movement. It does not hunt on emotion. It continuously runs a metabolic cost-benefit analysis of its ecosystem. The juvenile macaque is agile, but the monitor lizard, now fully exposed in the open, represents a massive caloric payload. By breaking its camouflage, the reptile has unwittingly upgraded itself to primary target status. Below, the pursuit reaches a mathematical limit. The juvenile macaque is cornered, its escape vectors reduced to 0. The monitor lizard prepares for the final strike. Its ectothermic system has peaked, converting stored energy into a lethal burst of momentum. For the young primate, the biological clock has effectively run out. But the ultimate rule of this habitat is about to be enforced. The eagle folds its wings, entering a high-velocity stoop. Despite its massive 8-kilogram frame, specialized feathers disrupt the aerodynamic friction, rendering its descent almost entirely silent. At the exact moment of interception, the eagle bypasses the primate entirely. Its 7-centimeter talons lock onto the reptile with hundreds of pounds of crushing force. The true target was never the macaque. The adult macaque's cognitive trap has executed flawlessly. By manipulating their enemy's instincts, they turned the apex predator of the sky into their own biological weapon. In this ecosystem, intelligence is the ultimate shield. The juvenile macaque retreats to the safety of the troop. In this ruthless wilderness, one predator's fatal error merely sets the table for another's ultimate feast. Dawn on the savannah. Ambient temperature sits at 18 degrees Celsius. This is the optimal thermodynamic window for apex endurance hunters. The African wild dog, Lycaon pictus. Their oversized ears are not just acoustic radars, they are dense capillary networks functioning as thermoregulators, dissipating core heat during prolonged high-speed pursuits. Navigating the tall grass, the pack engages in active environmental processing. Their binocular vision and directional hearing overlap. Operating in this dispersed line, they create a synchronized sensory grid, detecting the slightest kinetic shift in the savannah. The yellow stalks provide effective camouflage for herbivores. In response, this wide frontal assault acts as a biological net, mechanically designed to flush concealed targets out of the brush. High-frequency twitters synchronize their positioning without alerting larger prey. The pack fundamentally alters its operational mode. High-speed pursuit parameters are deactivated. They lower their center of gravity, adopting a predatory crawl. They are now operating entirely in stealth. Their objective is elevated, a basalt outcrop, a natural geological stronghold that serves as a thermal sink during the night and a tactical fortress by day. Here, a troop of olive baboons, numbering over 40 individuals, has established their high-ground sanctuary. The early morning light initiates a critical neurochemical protocol within the baboon troop, allogrooming. This behavior transcends physical hygiene. The tactile stimulation triggers the release of endorphins and oxytocin, simultaneously lowering cortisol levels while solidifying their complex hierarchical alliances. A troop of this density presents a formidable defensive matrix. The adult males act as perimeter sentinels. Biologically equipped with canines measuring up to 5 centimeters exceeding those of a leopard, they represent a lethal, high-risk variable for any approaching predator. Even after the log grooming protocol, the troop remains anchored to the basalt outcrop. This elevated topography provides a dual biological advantage: maximum solar exposure to rapidly elevate their core body temperature after the cold savanna night, and an unobstructed 360-degree visual sweep of the surrounding biome. Within this high-ground sanctuary, internal hierarchy dictates spatial positioning. The dominant alpha males occupy the outermost perimeters. Functioning as an early warning radar system, their binocular vision scans the yellow grass for kinetic anomalies. Their physical presence deters terrestrial threats from attempting a vertical assault. In the protected center, juveniles engage in high-energy mock combat. This is not merely play, it is a critical neurological simulation. They are developing the fast-twitch muscle fibers and spatial awareness required to survive future predator encounters. All while constant low-frequency vocalizations maintain an acoustic tether between the 40 individuals. For the baboons, every day is a biological war, caught between caloric starvation and the savanna's hidden threats. Every decision is a calculated risk. Here, one miscalculation means death. Below the outcrop, the wild dogs remain locked in their stealth formation. A direct upward charge against an alert baboon troop is biologically unviable. The canines are engaged in a game of thermodynamic patience, waiting for a single juvenile or subadult to miscalculate their spatial boundaries and step too close to the precipice. An underdeveloped threat perception overrides survival instincts. Driven by a caloric deficit, a naive juvenile steps outside the troop's safety zone, a fatal geometric error. The sensory trigger is pulled. The wild dogs instantly transition from stealth to maximum kinetic output, deploying a synchronized intercept trajectory. Through a suffocating high-speed encirclement, the juvenile is forced into a dead end fractions of a second before the alpha males can unleash a counter-strike. In a desperate biomechanical reflex, the juvenile exploits the canine's anatomical limitation, a lack of arboreal adaptation. It ascends a solitary acacia, a temporary vertical refuge. From the high branches, the juvenile emits a high decibel distress frequency. This is not merely a cry of fear. It is a highly evolved acoustic beacon designed to pierce the savanna's ambient noise. It carries a specific biometric signature, triggering a hardwired neurochemical alarm within the troop. The acoustic signal triggers an instant adrenaline cascade. Abandoning all foraging protocols, the alpha males mobilize into an offensive phalanx. Driven to protect their genetic investment, a multi-ton wave of primate muscle and lethal canines surges toward the tree. The siege is shattered by sheer, overwhelming kinetic force. The collision is instantaneous. Driven by kin selection, the alpha males unleash a blunt force trauma assault. Wielding 5-centimeter canines, this multi-ton wave of primate muscle shatters the dog's siege protocol. It is an asymmetrical territorial defense, neutralizing the threat in seconds and safely retrieving the juvenile. Outweighed and outweaponized, the canine neurocircuitry abruptly switches from predatory aggression to absolute panic. In the ruthless economics of the savanna, a primate bite means septicemia and certain death. The pack dissolves into an uncoordinated retreat. But surviving the counterattack is only their first hurdle. As the adrenaline crash hits, a terrifying physiological reality sets in. They have expended a massive amount of metabolic energy for a zero-caloric return. Scattering into the dry grass, the pack's highly organized neural network devolves into a chaotic flight response. Hyperventilating and visibly panicked, the wild dogs are consumed by a profound behavioral trauma. The immediate terror of the primate's blunt force counterstrike quickly morphs into an existential dread. Their biological clock is now ticking exponentially faster. Prolonged starvation will inevitably compromise their immune systems and shatter their coordinated hunting matrix. This single disastrous ambush has pushed the terrified canines to the absolute brink of caloric bankruptcy. While the baboons stabilize their acoustic tether, the desperate dogs must keep moving, haunted by the savannah's ultimate apex equation: hunt successfully or perish. This is not a tactical withdrawal. It is a blind, adrenaline-fueled rout. Tails tucked and ears pinned flat, classic morphological markers of acute subordination. They scramble erratically over the abrasive terrain. The pack's collective mind has been hijacked by the reptilian brain, driven purely by a singular imperative: put maximum distance between themselves and the primate fury. Deep within the troop's concentric core, a maternal reunion occurs. The mother retrieves her juvenile. This intense tactile interaction allogrooming triggers a massive release of oxytocin, effectively degrading the residual cortisol from the morning's trauma. The troop's fractured social matrix is chemically and physically seamlessly repaired. As the solar angle diminishes, the savannah undergoes a rapid thermodynamic shift. The diurnal cycle draws to a close. For the Papio Anubis troop, this diminishing light signals an immediate behavioral transition, abandoning all foraging protocols to retreat into an elevated nocturnal fortress. As the Earth shifts its axis, the Serengeti sheds the heavy cloak of night. Dawn here is not merely a sunrise. It is a biological trigger. The sudden spike in thermal radiation resets the survival clock of millions. For the grazers, the first light offers a fleeting illusion of safety, but in this 3-million-year-old theater, visibility is a double-edged sword. Driven by an ancient biological imperative, an expectant female severs her ties with the safety of the mass. The first contractions have begun. Every ancient instinct now focuses on the imminent birth, preparing her body for the most vulnerable moment on the savannah. Yet, giving birth alone is the savannah's ultimate gamble. The rush of amniotic fluid releases a potent chemical beacon, drifting miles downwind. The delivery is complete, but the physical transition is still underway. The newborn foal remains partially encased in the amniotic sac. This translucent membrane, which provided vital protection inside the womb, must now be shed. The mother acts instinctively to assist her offspring. She focuses directly on the tissue surrounding the foal's head. By licking and gently nipping at the membrane, she uncovers the face, ensuring the foal can comfortably take its first full breaths of air. The foal's instinctive drive to stand serves a vital biomechanical function here. As it extends its long legs and pushes upward, Gravity and the weight of the fluid-soaked tissue work together with the foal's movement. This combined mechanical tension stretches and breaks the membrane, systematically peeling it completely away from the coat and freeing the hind legs for mobility. The first touch is gentle, yet driven by absolute urgency. By meticulously cleaning her foal, the mother isn't just showing affection, she is actively erasing the scent of birth, a vital countermeasure against predators that map this landscape by smell. Within minutes of taking its first breath, the foal faces its greatest test. It must conquer gravity. Its legs are disproportionately long, nearly adult-sized. This is not an accident of nature. It's an evolutionary masterpiece, engineered for immediate flight. As they nuzzle, an invisible, lifelong bond is forged. She deliberately stands between her foal and the rest of the world. In these quiet seconds, the newborn's brain takes a mental photograph, memorizing the unique barcode of its mother's stripes. The foal's initial steps are unsteady, but it adapts with remarkable speed. Zebras are a precocial species, born with a highly developed nervous system. Continuous walking forces blood into the foal's long legs, rapidly reinforcing the muscle coordination required to run. The mother dictates the pace, continuously assessing her foal's stamina. She is deliberately navigating her offspring out of the dense brush, taking the first calculated steps toward reuniting with the protective numbers of the herd. The shift in the wind carries the scent of the newborn foal across the savannah. A pride of lionesses intercepts this chemical signal. Their olfactory system is highly specialized, allowing them to determine the exact direction and approximate distance of their potential prey without visual confirmation. To close the distance undetected, the lionesses rely on physical adaptation. Their tawny coats blend seamlessly with the dry grass. They move in a coordinated formation, spreading out to flank the mother and her single foal. Soft, thick pads on the bottom of their paws absorb the impact of their weight, enabling them to navigate the dry terrain in near silence. The pride's strategy is dictated by their biology. Lions possess limited stamina for long pursuits, requiring them to minimize the distance before initiating a sprint. They collectively target the young foal, analyzing its unsteady movements and lack of top speed, identifying it as the highest probability target. The mother zebra continues to monitor her surroundings, but the lead lioness initiates the strike. Utilizing the massive fast-twitch muscle fibers in her hindquarters, she accelerates from a standstill to 60 kilometers per hour in just 3 seconds. The zebra's sensitive ears catch the sound instantly. Panic ripples through the herd like a shockwave, and they immediately scatter in terror. But this frontal assault is a calculated trap. By triggering the stampede, the lioness is purposely herding the panicked zebras straight toward the rest of the pride waiting in ambush. In this blinding dust and chaos, the young foal has only one lifeline. It must perfectly copy its mother's every move. or be left behind. At top speed, the fleeing herd deploys its greatest natural defense, a visual illusion. As dozens of zebras sprint and weave together, their black and white stripes merge into a dizzying blur. This phenomenon, known as motion dazzle, makes it incredibly difficult for a chasing lion to judge speed, distance, or single out one individual. The choking dust of the dry savanna only deepens the predator's confusion. The pursuit forces the herd to the edge of a fast-flowing river. They are trapped between the approaching lions and the turbulent water. Driven by the immediate threat on land, the zebras make a calculated behavioral choice. Plunging into the treacherous current presents a statistically higher chance of survival. Entering the water instantly neutralizes their speed advantage. The dense current rapidly drains their stamina. Their hooves, evolved for traction on hard savanna soil, struggle to find stability on the slippery riverbed. The mass movement creates a bottleneck, pushing the animals deeper into the channel. This massive aquatic disturbance alerts a completely different apex predator. Nile crocodiles utilize specialized sensory receptors along their jaws to detect low-frequency vibrations in the water. They can pinpoint the exact location of the struggling zebras, moving in to intercept. Driven by sheer panic, they do not pause to defend themselves. They thrash violently, using their powerful muscles simply to break the water's resistance, their visual focus locked entirely on reaching the opposite bank. This reckless crossing is a brutal evolutionary calculation. By moving as a dense, chaotic mass at maximum physical exertion, they overwhelm the predator's ability to target effectively. Individual safety is temporarily sacrificed for the forward momentum of the group. Through pure physical endurance, the vast majority scramble up the bank, successfully escaping the aquatic threat. Safe on the opposite bank, the herd's collective heart rate begins to decelerate. The massive spike of adrenaline and cortisol required for the high-speed escape slowly dissipates from their bloodstreams. The river has acted as a ruthless evolutionary filter. Those remaining on this bank have successfully passed a rigorous test of physical endurance and spatial awareness. In the savanna ecosystem, peace is merely a temporary biological reset. Their sensory radars remain active, processing the wind for the next inevitable threat. Morning in the rainforest, a cathedral of emerald light. As the golden hour breaks, solar radiation gently filters through a three-dimensional matrix of broadleaf canopy. The air is dry and crisp, awakening a billion stomata to breathe in the dawn. Anchored to the heart of an ancient giant, a tree slowly surrendering its legacy back to the earth, hangs a masterpiece of biological architecture, an exposed wild honeybee colony. To protect their wax citadel from the mounting thermal heat, workers beat their wings 230 times per second, orchestrating a cooling microstorm. At the slightest tremor, sentinels arm their stingers, ready to release isoamyl acetate, a highly volatile alarm pheromone. The wild is always armed. A black bear, consumed by a gnawing hunger, the apex olfactory navigator of this forest. The morning breeze carries a potent chemical signature straight to its receptors. Lipids, proteins, and concentrated sucrose. A high-calorie beacon is locked. With a nasal cavity packed with millions of scent receptors, its sense of smell is 7 times greater than a bloodhound's. It doesn't just smell the honey. It is actively rendering a 3D topographic map to the exact coordinates of the hive. The bear's jaw delivers a crushing force of over 800 pounds per square inches, tearing through the decaying branch, anchoring the hive. The bear is actively hunting the nutrient-dense bee larvae deep inside the suspended comb, a critical, high-yield protein reserve. As the suspended fortress is violently breached, the colony's alarm system triggers into overdrive. A brutal collision between raw mammalian power and insectoid chemical warfare has officially begun. That radiant chemical scent has awakened a second phantom from the jungle's deepest shadows, carrying a primal, gnawing hunger, and propelled by a ruthless caloric deficit. A master of survival steps into the light, Mellivora capensis, the honey badger. Weighing barely 14 kilograms, it faces a competitor 10 times its mass. Yet, fear is a biological mechanism largely absent from its neural circuitry. Driven by an aggressive metabolic demand for the high-octane honey, the badger initiates an acoustic assault. Its characteristic shrill hiss is a calculated psychological weapon designed to disrupt the bear's focus. High in the canopy, the bear achieves a delicate biomechanical balance. Anchoring its massive frame with curved claws that act as climbing crampons, it manipulates the hive with surprising dexterity. Using its prehensile lips and a highly agile tongue, it systematically extracts the nutrient-dense pupae from the hexagonal wax matrix. This is a crucial caloric windfall, flooding its system with essential lipids and amino acids. Pacing at the base of the tree, the badger is calculating its moment for kleptoparasitism, the ecological strategy of stealing a larger predator's prize. It can afford this extreme audacity thanks to a unique evolutionary defense, an exceptionally thick, rubbery epidermis, completely detached from its underlying muscle. The inevitable confrontation ignites, a clash of biomechanical extremes, the massive bulk of the apex bear against the unyielding ferocity of the honey badger. Without hesitation, the badger launches a direct physical challenge for the caloric prize, proving that in this ecosystem, evolutionary audacity can completely neutralize raw physical dominance. The anchor point snaps. Without structural support, gravity pulls the massive wax citadel down. It plummets to the forest floor, shattering upon impact and instantly exposed. Over 50,000 bees erupt into a dark insectoid storm. The air is instantly saturated with alarm pheromones, subjecting the combatants to a deafening acoustic and chemical assault. In the face of this overwhelming swarm intelligence, mammalian aggression falters. The sensory overload is absolute, and the biological cost of endurance now far outweighs the caloric reward. Forced to abort the duel, both predators launch into an immediate, chaotic retreat. The apex predator relies on a primal evasion tactic. Plunging into a slow-moving aquatic microhabitat, the black bear uses the water for more than just thermal relief. It is actively neutralizing the chemical markers, washing away the highly volatile alarm pheromones that guide the stings of the swarm. Despite its massive bulk, the black bear is wired with a highly sensitive flight response. When overwhelmed by a collective enemy it cannot physically fight, instinct overrides aggression, dictating immediate spatial distancing. The giant chooses self-preservation. In stark contrast, the honey badger moves with calculated ease through the chaos. Navigating the fallen timber, it seizes the perfect distraction. It snatches up a shattered piece of the honeycomb, a nutrient-dense prize won with barely any effort. The adrenaline of the retreat quickly dissolves into a much deadlier sensation: starvation. In this unforgiving wilderness, every calorie lost is a step closer to death. Standing in the icy current, the bear is driven not by instinct alone, but by a gnawing, desperate void in its gut. The river is merciless, siphoning away its remaining body heat and accelerating the metabolic drain. The bear must strike a lethal balance, freeze like a statue of muscle to avoid detection, while its internal furnace burns through its last fat reserves. Nature offers no sympathy for the hungry. It demands absolute, flawless precision. Driven to the brink, the bear unleashes a violent explosion of kinetic energy. It's a strike fueled purely by desperation. 5-centimeter claws rip through the water, acting as biological harpoons. It pins a massive, unsuspecting target to the riverbed, a life-or-death gamble that finally pays off. Water erupts as the fish thrashes violently, fighting its own grim battle for survival. But the bear's jaws, powered by raw starvation, lock shut with an unbreakable force. Dragging the heavy prize through the current's resistance, it wades toward the sandy bank. One life is brutally extinguished, so another can endure. The aquatic struggle is brief. The bear's jaws lock with anatomical precision, firmly securing the heavy catch. Clamping the fish tightly, the massive predator wades against the resisting current. With deliberate, heavy strides, it steps up onto the solid riverbank, river water cascading from its dense, dark coat as it leaves the hunting ground behind. Here, on the safety of the bank, the undeniable rule of the food web is laid bare. The bear focuses on its hard-won meal, a moment of pure survival, prioritizing the vital intake of premium biological fuel. Rich fats and proteins are instantly converted into the energy needed to endure the wilderness. In this ecosystem, hunger is the ultimate driving force, shaping a relentless cycle of adaptation just to see another dawn. In the wild, memory is an expensive metabolic commodity. There are no grudges held here, no vendettas pursued. The chaotic clashes of the day are quickly erased from neurological priorities, making way for the immediate and absolute demands of survival. Every inhabitant of this ecosystem operates on strict biological pragmatism. Yesterday's rival is irrelevant. Tomorrow's caloric deficit is the only absolute truth. In this constant struggle, survival demands that every violent encounter be left behind, as life seamlessly reverts to its relentless, solitary rhythm. For the bear and the badger, it is simply another rotation of the earth, a relentless, beautiful loop of raw survival, continuing under the fading light of the natural world. The savannah is not merely a landscape, it is a thermodynamic engine. Here, sunlight is the primary currency, driving a relentless biological economy. For apex predators, hunting is not an act of malice, but a strict calculation, waiting for the exact moment to seize that energy with minimal caloric waste. On these plains, herbivores act as living energy converters, guarded by a hypersensitive sensory network. As midday solar radiation peaks, the savanna's thermodynamics drastically shift. Optically, this arid matrix appears as a static, lifeless void, but this profound emptiness is a physical illusion. To survive, the flora utilizes microphyllae, minimizing leaf surface areas to halt transpiration and lock in cellular moisture. Navigating this arid matrix, Herbivores optimize metabolic efficiency. Warthogs target underground tubers. These roots act as biological vaults, storing essential water and starch. Their cartilaginous snouts function as specialized excavators. A lioness's massive muscular frame generates lethal internal heat. By entering a state of deep metabolic conservation, she is actively supercharging her fast-twitch muscle fibers with glycogen. She is banking explosive kinetic energy, waiting for the thermal waves to dissipate and the perfect acoustic blind spot to open. Driven by the pressure of caloric intake, the warthog's biological radar is neutralized. The friction of excavating dry earth creates an auditory mask, perfectly concealing the approaching predator. The lioness utilizes retractable claws and specialized digital pads to absorb shock, effectively muting her footfalls across the brittle terrain. Relying on disruptive coloration to blend with the sun-bleached grass, she calculates the critical strike distance while navigating strictly downwind, ensuring her olfactory signature is blown away from the prey. The acoustic mask drops. Propelled by an explosive contraction of fast-twitch muscle fibers, the lioness accelerates to 80 kilometers per hour. The warthog's head snaps up, instantly flooding its visual cortex with the reality of the ambush. Panic triggers a massive adrenaline dump. The warthog flees with its tail erect, a biological flag coordinating the herd's chaotic dispersal. It employs erratic lateral evasion to shatter the feline's linear momentum. Igniting a spectacular high-speed pursuit, the warthog leverages evasive stamina, while the lion's ambush-engineered anatomy rapidly hits the anaerobic threshold, flooding her muscles with debilitating lactic acid. Plunging straight into a deep subterranean hole, the warthog completely removes itself from the surface battlefield. By retreating into the dark depths, it secures a definitive spatial advantage. The lioness aggressively reaches down the pit, but a feline's retractable claws are engineered for surface grappling, not heavy excavation. Safe in the depths, the warthog expands its ribcage, wedging its body against the earthen walls with immense isometric force. The lioness reaches blindly into the dark shaft, desperate to hook her prey. But the warthog has retreated deeper, moving well beyond the maximum extension of the feline's forelimbs. Her specialized claws swipe at empty dirt, completely failing to make contact. Confronted by this stark anatomical limit, the apex predator is rendered entirely powerless. Unable to extract a target she cannot even reach, she absorbs the metabolic loss and walks away, defeated by the sheer depth of the earth. Only when the surface vibrations fade does the warthog break its subterranean silence. A cautious snout emerges first, performing a rigorous olfactory sweep to definitively confirm the predator's scent has dissipated. Stepping back into the fading light, the animal undergoes a rapid physiological reset. The parasympathetic nervous system engages, flushing out residual cortisol, and decelerating a heart rate that was just pushed to its absolute biological limits. As the golden hour washes over the arid scrub, the brush with death is simply swallowed by the dusk. The cycle resets, and another day is won in this perfectly balanced, ruthless matrix. The African savannah. Shaped by the tectonic fractures of the Great Rift Valley, this vast landscape is dictated by the relentless shifting of the intertropical convergence zone. Right now, steady solar radiation warms the laterite soil, turning 1 million square miles into a golden ocean of dry grass. Yet, beneath this sweeping tranquility lies nature's most immutable law, the continuous transfer of thermodynamic energy. Here, every blade of grass converting sunlight is destined to be harvested, and every grazer is merely borrowed energy, waiting to be claimed by the apex tier. It is a silent, breathtaking equilibrium, where survival is a zero-sum game. Within this unforgiving cycle, the profound transcendence of maternal love blooms as a biological anomaly. For this pregnant zebra, the heartbeat of her unborn foal overrides every instinct of self-preservation. Though carrying 30 kilograms of fetal mass severely compromises her mechanical center of gravity, this sacred bond pushes her physiological limits to the absolute brink. Behind her, the apex predator arrives to claim that borrowed energy, the African lioness. Operating on pure biomechanical explosive power, her physiology is packed with fast-twitch muscle fibers capable of accelerating to 80 kilometers per hour in mere seconds. Driven by a massive surge of adrenaline, the prey is funneled toward a critical ecological boundary, the river. Water means salvation from the terrestrial predator, but it introduces a fatal new variable, the aquatic ambush. Survival now depends entirely on hydrodynamics and a calculated leap of faith. Driven by a massive surge of adrenaline, the prey is funneled toward a critical ecological boundary, the river. Water means salvation from the terrestrial predator, but it introduces a fatal new variable, the aquatic ambush. Survival now depends entirely on hydrodynamics and a calculated leap of faith. Pivoting toward the heavier splash, the crocodile intercepts the lioness, effectively anchoring the terrestrial predator in the aquatic kill zone. This lethal roadblock buys the pregnant zebra critical seconds. Relying on her ungulate buoyancy, she furiously paddles past the chaos and scrambles up the far bank. The lioness is now trapped, her explosive terrestrial physics utterly failing against the immense fluid drag. Two evolutionary marvels fiercely collide. The crocodile attempts a hydrodynamic roll with its 5,000 psi bite to disorient the feline. Pushed to the brink, the lioness must unleash her raw terrestrial strength to break the reptilian grip. But while the titans clash, the intended prey slips away unnoticed. The apex predator's aquatic error has inadvertently granted the pregnant zebra her ultimate prize, a safe passage to the other side. Safe on the far bank, the adrenaline surge rapidly fades, instantly replaced by a massive release of oxytocin. The extreme physical stress of the chase has triggered the final stage of parturition. Lying down in the open savanna is highly vulnerable, but her severely depleted glycogen reserves leave her physiology with no other choice. A fragile new life emerges, still perfectly encased within the intact amniotic membrane. This biological shield, acting as a final protective embrace from the womb, absorbed the violent shocks of the river. Now, it cradles the newborn in a sterile, fluid-filled cocoon, suspending it in a fleeting, peaceful moment between the absolute safety of its mother and the harsh reality of the savannah. Against all odds, mammalian endurance prevails. The crocodile, relying on anaerobic metabolism, rapidly depletes its energy reserves, forcing it to release its powerful grip. Exhausted and severely waterlogged, the lioness drags her heavy frame onto the riverbank. She has survived the aquatic struggle, but at an immense physiological cost. Just yards away, a profoundly different biological milestone is unfolding. The newborn foal is hardwired with precocial instincts. Within minutes of birth, complex neural pathways fire, encouraging its wobbly limbs to defy gravity. It must stand and move, stepping out to explore the vast sunlit world that awaits. Driven by innocent curiosity, the foal takes its first clumsy steps toward the tall grass, briefly wandering away from its resting mother. In a startling twist of ecological fate, it steps directly into the line of sight of the exhausted feline. A sudden flicker of predatory focus returns to the lioness's eyes. In the vast theater of the African savannah, a breathtaking encounter is set. Innocent curiosity meeting desperate exhaustion. The feline's predatory hardwiring temporarily overrides its profound physical exhaustion. Relying on deep-seated muscle memory, she lowers her center of gravity and silently navigates the tall grass. It is a calculated, desperate stalk, driven by a sudden surge of dopamine as she prepares to launch her final ambush. Suddenly, the apex predator breaks cover, launching herself forward. Her target is the isolated newborn, but the explosive acceleration is missing, severely compromised by her earlier aquatic struggle. Seeing the massive feline rapidly closing the gap, the fragile foal is thrown into sheer panic, its unsteady limbs scrambling frantically for traction. Hearing the desperate cry of her foal, the mother immediately rushes to the rescue. Fueled by a massive surge of adrenaline and maternal aggression, one of nature's most formidable forces. Raising her head, she lets out a resounding call, sending an urgent rally signal to the rest of the zebra herd. Within seconds, her family thunders in. They converge into a solid wall of hooves and muscle, forming an impenetrable collective defense. The arriving herd doesn't just bring numbers, they bring an unbreakable family bond. It is a profound display of unity, a collective shield forged from empathy and mutual survival. Trembling from both physical exhaustion and utter terror, the lioness is forced to turn and flee for her life. In this fleeting moment, the ultimate hunter cowers before her prey, and the harsh hierarchy of the savannah is spectacularly inverted. As the threat dissolves into the vast horizon, the savannah reclaims its peaceful rhythm. The mother gently approaches her trembling foal. Her tender tactile comfort is nature's most powerful medicine, rapidly lowering the newborn's cortisol levels and soothing its fragile nervous system after the shock. Dawn breaks over the African savannah, igniting a timeless crucible of life. Peace is merely a fleeting illusion, and survival is a currency earned by the second. The wildebeest begin their restless harvest. They are the chaotic engine of these plains, dynamic lawnmowers transforming dust into life. The giraffe, an evolutionary masterpiece. By conquering the canopy, they exploit resources untouched by rivals, operating as the savannah's living watchtowers. In this empire, a war is coming. A zebra's stripes are not for beauty. They are a calculated defense, a blinding canvas of motion dazzle, designed to shatter a predator's depth perception. A few miles away, the river provides a brief sanctuary. Spotted hyenas, often misunderstood as mindless scavengers, they are, in fact, one of Africa's most successful and highly intelligent predators. Here, in the water, they lower their core body temperature. It's not just play, it's preparation. But the hyenas' downtime abruptly ends. A shift in the breeze carries the scent of opportunity. Led by an alpha female, the clan locks onto their target. Their awkward gait is deeply deceptive. They aren't built for a quick sprint. They are relentless pursuit predators, engineered to run their prey into the ground. Blissfully unaware, the zebras continue their slow, rhythmic march. There is no tension here, just a peaceful drift across the wild plains. The hyenas halt. Now, the hunt begins. Oblivious to the eyes burning into them, the striped sentinels march on. Total silence, no iconic laughter. The hyenas use subtle ear flicks and body language to orchestrate their next move. The predators slip into the dry brush. Their spotted coats, acting as disruptive coloration, melt perfectly into the dappled shadows. They become ghosts in the grass. The zebra's pace slows. The heat breeds a false sense of security. The trap is set. The hyenas fan out, forming a wide crescent. A classic flanking maneuver to cut off escape routes. They don't need the perfect ambush. They just need panic. Once they force the zebras to scatter, the illusion breaks, and the hyenas will run their chosen target to absolute exhaustion. Muscles coil, hearts race. The savannah holds its breath as the hyenas prepare to unleash chaos. In a split second, the silence shatters as the hyenas break cover and charge towards the zebras. The zebras continue to graze. Each mouthful of grass drops their line of sight, anchoring them to the earth while danger coils just out of view. Suddenly, the hyenas surge forward. They launch their assault, closing the gap with terrifying efficiency. There is no roar, only the rapid thud of paws hitting the dry earth. A shift in the acoustic landscape alerts the zebras. Swiveling ears catch the approaching threat, and in an instant, grazing turns to flight. As the zebras sprint, their stripes merge into a dizzying wave of optical distortion, designed to confuse the hyenas' visual tracking. But the hyenas do not push for maximum speed. They settle into a rhythmic, relentless pursuit. Pounding across the plains, the zebras sprint for survival. The hyenas, built for unparalleled stamina, simply maintain their pace, slowly chipping away at the gap. The zebras push their massive lungs to the limit, pounding across the savannah in a desperate bid for distance. Believing they have gained enough ground, the zebras abruptly halt. They turn to observe and rely on their sharp eyesight to measure the remaining danger. It is a fatal miscalculation. The hyenas crest the ridge, bringing them right into striking range. Panic sets in. The zebras freeze. They stand completely still, locked in a state of high-stress paralysis. The hyenas complete their maneuver. The crescent closes into a tight circle, and the zebras are surrounded. The hyenas strike. They do not aim for the throat. They target the hind legs. A brutal tactic designed to cripple the zebra's mobility. Every bite is a calculated attempt to anchor a 1,000-pound animal to the earth. The savannah watches. To them, the zebra's fight means one thing: the hyenas are occupied, and the plains are temporarily safe. But the zebras are far from defenseless. Driven by pure adrenaline, they fight back. A zebra's hind kick delivers over 2,000 pounds of force, enough to instantly shatter a predator's skull. They group together, turning their defensive panic into an offensive wall of striking hooves and snapping teeth. The math changes. Facing an unacceptable risk of severe injury, the hyena's assault is broken. The wild absorbs the violence, remaining entirely indifferent to the struggles of its inhabitants. Silence slowly reclaims the landscape. Beaten and exhausted, the hyenas retreat. In the wild, every hunt is an economic equation. When the cost of energy and the risk of physical damage outweigh the reward, predators must yield. They walk away with empty stomachs, preserving their lives for the next pursuit. For the zebras, survival comes with a price. They gather to tend to the injured. This behavior, known as allogrooming, is about much more than cleaning wounds. The physical contact releases endorphins, lowering their heart rates and rapidly neutralizing the trauma of the battle. Their social bond is the true key to their resilience. As the sun dips below the horizon, the temperature drops, and the rules of the savannah transform. Day transitions to dusk, painting the sky in fiery hues. The failing light will soon strip the zebras of their visual advantage. It is a brief moment of tranquility, the closing chapter of today's crucible. The African savanna is a vast, semi-arid biome defined by the brutal thermal dynamics of the dry season. Here, primary productivity dictates the survival of the entire trophic cascade. At the apex of this food web, a biological clock is ticking. After a gestation period of roughly 110 days, this female lion, Panthera leo, must temporarily sever ties with her pride. Isolation is a crucial evolutionary strategy to protect her vulnerable offspring from infanticide and opportunistic predators. Before parturition, elevated levels of prolactin and oxytocin induce active nesting behavior. The expulsion phase yields a litter of altricial cubs, highly vulnerable neonates born immobile and with minimal metabolic reserves. The statistical reality of the savanna is unforgiving. Biologically, up to 80% of these cubs will not survive their first year. For the lioness and her offspring, continuous tactile stimulation serves vital physiological functions. Beyond oxytocin-mediated maternal bonding, the mother's rhythmic grooming provides mechanical friction that directly stimulates the cub's underdeveloped digestive and excretory systems. The cub's playful interactions are far from trivial. They are complex neuromuscular simulations. Through mock ambushes, they actively forge the synaptic pathways required for future apex predation. Meanwhile, the lioness maintains a hyper-vigilant perimeter, constantly analyzing chemical cues in the wind to intercept potential threats from rival carnivores. Beyond the protective brush, the savanna opens into a vast biochemical factory. The dominant flora here utilizes C4 photosynthesis, a highly efficient metabolic pathway evolved to to maximize carbon fixation while minimizing water loss under intense ultraviolet radiation. This relentless engine of primary production forms the structural foundation of the entire biome. This convergence of nutrient-dense forage and accessible water generates one of the highest mammalian carrying capacities on Earth. For a lioness managing a severe caloric deficit, this hyper-abundant ecosystem is a calculated arena of thermodynamics. The savanna continuously generates the biological fuel. She must now deploy her biomechanics to extract it. Utilizing the dense riparian vegetation for optical camouflage, the lioness calculates her attack vector. Padded digits absorb acoustic vibrations, allowing for near-silent locomotion. The prey the lioness has chosen is a mega-herbivore, hippopotamus amphibious. A brutal isometric struggle ensues. The lioness launches, sinking retractable claws into the hippo's thick epidermis to anchor herself, attempting a precision strike at the carotid artery. For several tense moments, the lioness leverages her entire body mass in a desperate bid to exhaust the mega-herbivore. With a sudden explosive torque of its massive cervical muscles, the hippo violently breaks the stalemate. Utilizing its 1,800 pounds per square inches bite force to physically overpower and reject the apex predator. These hydrodynamic disturbances are immediately intercepted by Crocodilus niloticus, the Nile crocodile. Embedded along the reptile's jawline are specialized integumentary sense organs, ISOs, capable of detecting microscopic shifts in water pressure. Calculating the exact vector of the mammalian distress signals, the ectothermic predator initiates its stealth protocol, utilizing bradycardia to drastically lower its heart rate. Propelled by massive axial musculature, the crocodile initiates a kinetic ambush, deploying a 5,000 pounds per square inches bite force designed to execute a fatal hydrodynamic death roll. Fueled by a sudden epinephrine surge, the lioness detonates her remaining fast-twitch muscle fibers for a lateral evasion, breaching the bank but incurring a devastating metabolic cost and severe lactic acid buildup. Microtears in her musculoskeletal system and severe lactic acidosis heavily compromise the lioness's biomechanics, but the thermal currents carry a biochemical lifeline: volatile organic compounds from a recently deceased carcass. Securing this abandoned biomass is a thermodynamic anomaly, a massive caloric intake with zero kinetic expenditure from hunting. Driven by the maternal imperative, the lioness secures the payload, initiating the grueling transport back to the den to convert this protein into life-sustaining lactation for her cubs. As atmospheric scattering paints the savanna in low-frequency red light, the surface temperature rapidly plummets. These photoperiodic cues officially trigger the ecosystem's nocturnal cycle, defying the brutal thermodynamics of this biome. The lioness has successfully secured another day of cellular growth for her offspring. Alaskan Peninsula, a subarctic wilderness shaped by relentless katabatic winds. Here, gale-force gusts sweep across the frozen tundra, driving chill factors down to minus 35 degrees Celsius. On these coastal fringes, survival is reduced to raw thermodynamics. Sub-zero katabatic winds strip away all warmth, turning ambient moisture into airborne ice needles at minus 35 degrees. Yet, across this frozen hell, a sole survivor moves an Alaskan red fox. This devoted father is on a critical mission.
Facing an uncompromising metabolic drain in sub-zero winds, providing enough high-protein lipids to maintain their core body temperature of 38 degrees is a matter of life and death. Every movement now carries the weight of a father's devotion. His whiskers harbor specialized tactile receptors, while an advanced olfactory system cuts through the storm, detecting the faint chemical signals of rodents buried beneath a meter of packed snow. But in a frozen wasteland where failure means starvation for his kits, smell alone isn't enough. Large, parabolic ears rotate independently to capture low-frequency acoustic vibrations. He is calculating the exact trajectory of a prey he cannot see, for the lives waiting in the den. Through a subniven snow pocket, the faint rustle of a tundra vole triggers the fox father's auditory system. Standing completely still, the father aligns his body along a northeast magnetic vector. The precise orientation where magnetic field mapping maximizes hunting accuracy to over 70%. Deep within a snow pocket, a tundra vole emerges, a vital primary consumer in the Arctic food web, converting sparse plant matter into high-energy fat. Detecting the subtle movement, the fox father enters a state of hyper-cautious stalking. Every muscle freezes. Any premature impulse would collapse the delicate snow crust and alert the prey. Tension mounts. The fox father creeps forward with extreme care, his furred paws treading silently on the snow crust. Tilting his head, his parabolic ears lock onto the sound while his brain maps it against Earth's magnetic grid. One wrong step will ruin the hunt and starve his family. The strike. Aligning with magnetic north for maximum precision, the father leaps in a steep parabolic arc. Driving his forelegs through the snow, his neuromuscular response, under 50 milliseconds, neutralizes the prey instantly. With no time to waste under the skin-cutting gale, he grips the catch and races back to avoid heat loss and coastal predators. Inside the haven, a brief sanctuary. The mother and kits consume the prey, converting calories into warmth and milk. No rest for the father. Leaving them safe, he steps back into the blizzard to continue the hunt. An apex rival, a solitary gray wolf uses the roaring gale as acoustic cover, masking its footsteps right above the den entrance. Driven by winter starvation, it frantically claws through the frozen crust, intent on excavating the helpless kits beneath. Maternal aggression triggers a surge of adrenaline. Standing between the intruder and her kits, the mother fox bares her sharp teeth. Narrow subterranean tunnels level the playing field, preventing the larger predator from leveraging its massive size. Biting with blinding speed, the mother inflicts precise facial wounds on the wolf. In tight quarters, a fox's agility turns the narrow entry into a deadly hazard for an overextended invader. The wolf has lost the battle. In this unforgiving wilderness, Wasting precious energy on a futile fight means risking death by starvation. Humiliated and exhausted by the unyielding defense, the beaten predator slinks away, swallowed by the blinding blizzard.
Whiteout conditions engulf the tundra as a wall of ice-laden wind erases all visibility. Through this roaring white chaos, the fox father locks his sight on a flock of Arctic sparrows, hyper-alert targets, where a single, split-second error means returning empty-handed. Hunting small avian prey requires a radically different kinetic strategy. Unlike subterranean rodents, these sparrows alter their flight vectors in fractions of a second. To counter their fast wing beats, the father uses the howling wind as acoustic camouflage to close the distance. Bursting into a low-slung sprint, the father tracks their chaotic flight paths. Every muscle contracts like a compressed spring as his brain calculates their erratic mid-air trajectory. In a lightning leap, he intercepts the prey mid-flight, securing vital protein for his waiting family. Clutching his small prey, the fox father pushes through the raging snowstorm toward home. But in this unforgiving wilderness, a successful hunter instantly becomes prey. Soaring through the whiteout, a golden eagle, an apex avian predator with an 8-foot wingspan, locks onto the fox. It isn't after the bird in his jaws, it seeks the fox itself, a prize capable of sustaining it for days. Diving at speeds exceeding 150 miles per hour, the eagle transforms into a living missile. Its talons can exert a crushing force of over 400 pounds per square inch, enough to crush spinal columns instantly. Sensing the sudden drop in air pressure, the fox father's acute auditory receptors trigger a split-second evasion reflex, twisting his body to force a high-speed miss. Grounded by the blizzard, the eagle shifts tactics, using its massive wings and lethal talons to trap the fox on the open snow. But the father refuses to yield. Dropping low to protect his neck, he counters with agile lateral evasions, staying within the eagle's visual blind spot to neutralize its crushing strike capability. A battle of attrition. For the eagle, sustained combat in sub-zero winds drains critical body energy, making the risk of wing damage far too high. Realizing the fox's unyielding defense offers no quick kill, the giant raptor abandons the assault, taking flight to seek easier quarry in the freezing vastness. Exhausted and battered, but alive. Still holding tight to his hard-won catch, the father slips into the subterranean warmth of the den. Against all odds, he has survived the storm, the wolf, and the sky. Tonight, his family will feast, saved by the unbroken spirit of a father. Deep beneath the frozen tundra, heat and scent intertwine in a moment of pure reunion. The kits crowd around their father, while the mother softly nuzzles his weathered fur. Outside, the Arctic gale continues to howl, but here, within the earth, love and instinct have once again outlasted the cold. Tomorrow, the sunless wilderness will demand new sacrifices. But tonight, the fragile flame of life burns bright against the dark. Okavango, a violent geological scar torn into the heart of the Kalahari Desert. This is an arena of extremes, a massive tectonic depression where the Earth's crust has literally collapsed under its own weight. For months, this wasteland is held hostage by the sun. Temperatures radiate relentlessly off the silica sand, creating a suffocating thermal trap. The Kalahari is a ruthless tyrant, biologically designed to burn away any trace of organic existence. But a silent, aggressive counterattack occurs. Millions of dormant seeds and subterranean root networks suddenly awaken. Driven by a massive shift in atmospheric pressure, a violent botanical invasion breaches the desert's defenses. The barren landscape detonates into a hyperactive biome. Within days, this biosphere aggressively expands its territory from a mere 6,000 to over 15,000 square kilometers. It is a biological siege, overwhelming the sterile sand with an explosive web of green. Yet, this environment is a high-stakes chemical war zone for every living organism. The scorching atmosphere relentlessly attempts to vaporize their internal lifeblood, while flora mutates into colossal defensive shields. The fauna must execute extreme metabolic suppression, battling thermal assault and atmospheric extraction every single second. Above ground, the terrain inspires a marvel of biomechanical adaptation. Herbivores deploy highly specialized anatomies, gliding effortlessly over the shifting surface. Okavango is not merely a refuge. It is a finely tuned biological engine, sustaining a delicate, endless dance of life alongside the Kalahari. In perfect synchrony, apex predators refine their strategies, calculating precise kinetic strikes to conserve energy under the extreme heat. In the mammalian kingdom, dominance is governed by a strict biological clock. For a resident male lion, prime reproductive age is fleeting. Cellular aging inevitably begins to degrade his once absolute power. At the heart of a lion pride lies a permanent matrilineal core. Generations of related females function as the stable genetic anchor of the ecosystem, maintaining absolute order and continuity. However, male tenure is biologically designed to be temporary. Nature dictates a systematic rotation of dominant males acting as temporary genetic vectors to prevent inbreeding and ensure the pride's immunological vitality. This cyclical blood filtering represents a highly efficient evolutionary equilibrium. It is a peaceful, mathematical balance of life that holds perfectly still right until the moment it must be violently reset. A coalition of two young nomads enters the territory. By forming an alliance often bound by fraternal genetics, these males double their probability of a successful takeover. Against a solitary aging resident, the mathematics of survival are unforgiving. Before physical contact, the battle is fought acoustically. The resident male projects low-frequency vocalizations, seismic infrasound designed to assert mass and deter challengers, but the nomads do not retreat. As visual contact is made, the endocrine systems of all combatants detonate. A massive surge of epinephrine triggers aggressive vascular dilation, flooding the fast-twitch muscle fibers with oxygen. Their biometrics are now fully optimized for imminent trauma. By simply refusing to engage, the younger males weaponize the harsh Okavango sun. The old king's dense, dark mane, once a biological shield, now creates a localized greenhouse effect. Without the airflow of movement, his core body temperature begins a fatal ascent. To prevent severe hyperthermia, his respiratory rate The siege tightens further through silent neuromuscular attrition. The old king is forced to maintain a rigid defensive crouch, a state of intense isometric contraction. Unlike active movement, holding this static posture physically compresses his capillaries, restricting blood flow and starving his skeletal muscles of oxygen. His body is forced into premature anaerobic respiration. Lactic acid quietly pools in his limbs, stiffening his biological springs. The invaders are weaponizing gravity and time, patiently allowing synaptic fatigue to erode his explosive reflexes before contact is even made. As the isometric strain prolongs, the central nervous system begins to falter under the metabolic load. The brain continuously fires electrical impulses to recruit motor units, but the oxygen-deprived muscle fibers fail to respond with maximum tension. This neural discrepancy manifests as involuntary microtremors, subtle, high-frequency vibrations in the old king's forelimbs. The nomadic males, processing visual data at predatory hyperspeed, instantly detect these biomechanical glitches. They are reading his physiological collapse in real time, calculating the exact millisecond his structural integrity will compromise. The standoff exposes the cruel arithmetic of cellular senescence. The young nomads possess highly elastic collagen matrices. Their tendons act as perfect biological springs, storing kinetic energy with zero metabolic waste. Conversely, the old king's connective tissues are stiffened by years of accumulated microtraumas. Every postural shift forces him to leak pressure. This disparity extends to the microscopic level. The younger brains exhibit superior nerve conduction velocity, transmitting motor commands fractions of a millisecond faster. As visual contact is established, the psychological standoff collapses into primal aggression. A massive surge of adrenaline triggers acute vascular dilation in all three combatants. Heart rates spike, flooding skeletal muscles with oxygenated blood. They are biologically primed for an explosion of maximum kinetic output. The collisions generate immense biomechanical trauma. The invaders synchronize their assault, weaponizing their combined mass to shatter the old king's center of gravity. Retractable keratin claws 4 inches long sink deep into muscle tissue, functioning as biological grappling hooks to paralyze his mobility. The old Lion King is defeated. Crushed beneath the hostile mass, his cardiovascular system nears catastrophic failure. Yielding to the anaerobic mud, his evolutionary erasure is instantaneous. Stripped of his genetic monopoly and abruptly unplugged from the pride's matrix, his survival parameters brutally downgrade to isolated preservation. Violently expelled from his own territory, the old king is forced into a hostile exile. In the Okavango, this displacement initiates a catastrophic phase of metabolic decay. Driven to the flooded fringes, the delta's architecture actively penalizes his heavy, muscular frame. Stripped of the pride's cooperative ambush strategies, a solitary male's predatory efficiency plummets. Every failed hunt aggressively accelerates his energy deficit. In the quiet of the wetlands, isolation becomes a profound neurological void. For years, the old king's brain was wired to the constant sensory inputs of his pride, the thermal comfort of sleeping bodies, the acoustic reassurance of low rumbles, and the complex pheromonal signatures of his offspring. Now, there is only the deafening silence of the marsh. This sudden deprivation of social stimuli is not just a behavioral shift. It is a severe physiological shock. The phantom memory of his lineage continues to fire across his neural pathways, a lingering biological echo of a kingdom he can never return to. For weeks, A severe caloric deficit forces his body to consume its own fat reserves, followed by muscle tissue. The chilling reality of this ecosystem is that nature offers no pension for deposed kings. He must override his natural instincts, or he will perish. Driven by advanced starvation, the predator's risk assessment algorithm resets. He locks onto a target normally ignored by solitary cats. The African elephant. The physical disparity is monumental, a staggering weight ratio of 1 to 10. He cannot overpower a healthy adult. His biology dictates a desperate new tactic: psychological endurance. He will trail the herd like a shadow, analyzing their gait, waiting for the cover of darkness to mask his scent, and searching for the weakest calf. It is a high-stakes gamble, a final silent defiance against the fading of his light. Tortured by advanced starvation, the agony of his body cannibalizing its own muscle crosses the ultimate threshold. Driven by sheer desperation, the old king overrides his biological safety locks, forcing his failing heart to pump a final, irreversible surge of adrenaline. This violent kinetic explosion shatters the night, sending the massive herd into a blind panic. Overwhelmed by terror, the calf breaks from its mother's protective slipstream, a fatal geometric error. The high-speed pursuit plunges into the treacherous channel of the river. The deep water creates immense hydrodynamic drag, aggressively draining his momentum. This is a tragic war against the current itself. His dying biological engine must outlast the river's relentless resistance before total systemic collapse. The calf scrambles to the safety of the bank, leaving the old king stranded in total kinetic exhaustion. He doesn't yet realize that the river is a meticulously engineered death trap. The intense surface vibrations have already triggered the mechanoreceptors of a massive crocodile. Lying perfectly camouflaged just beneath the current, the reptile locks onto the lion's compromised biology, silently positioning itself to spring the final aquatic ambush. The crocodile's integumentary sensory organs, microdomes, lining its jaw instantly decode the lion's frantic splashing. It reads the erratic water pressure changes as the precise acoustic signature of a biologically compromised target. The surface tension shatters. The crocodile executes a flawless vertical strike, utilizing its immense jaw pressure not to tear, but to completely lock the old king's mobility. The apex mammalian predator is instantly, heavily anchored to the aquatic realm. Driven to the edge of biological collapse, the old king leverages buoyancy to twist his torso, targeting the reptile's anatomical blind spot at the nape. A paralyzing grip on this neural junction induces an instant physiological shutdown. The hunted masterfully turns the tide. As the Okavango sun sets, the thermodynamic balance of the river is reset. Dragging his massive prize to the muddy bank, the exiled king replenishes his exhausted body. In the profound solitude of twilight, this vital influx of protein and calories buys his aging cells one more day of life.